The more entrepreneurs a country has, the more money it generates. People overall experience the trickle-down effect, and everyone prospers. India is set to overtake Japan and Germany to become the world's third largest economy. In the 60s, India was richer than China in every way. Now, it's the opposite. The prediction back then was that India would become the leading economic power, considering that they speak English, they are a democracy, and they have a favorable neutral position between the US and the USSR. Let's unlock the economic pulse of the two giants and explore the dynamic China-India economic landscape. Like, share, and subscribe. As recently as 1990, the two countries were still on essentially the same footing, with a roughly equal economic output per capita. Since then, China has shaken the world by creating more wealth than any other country in history, while India, too, has picked itself back up in the 3 decades since it liberalized its economy. It remains well behind in many of the most basic scales. Today, China's economy is roughly 5 times the size of India's. The average citizen of China has an economic output of almost $13,000 a year, while the average Indian's is less than $2,500. In human development indicators, the contrast is even sharper, with infant mortality rates much higher in India, life expectancy lower, and access to sanitation less prevalent. The divergence, analysts say, comes down largely to China's central consolidation of policy power, serious land reform, an earlier start in opening up its economy to market forces starting in the late 1970s, and its single-minded focus on export-led growth. China took the first-mover advantage and then compounded its dominance as it pursued its plans relentlessly. The world now has a radically different power structure than it did in 1990. China has already made itself the world's factory, all but closing off any path India could take to competitive dominance in export-driven manufacturing. A Make in India campaign, inaugurated by Mr. Modi in 2014, has been stuttering ever since. Wage costs are lower in India than in China, but much of the workforce is poorly educated, and the country has struggled to attract private investment with its restrictive labor laws and other impediments to business, including lingering protectionism. Lots of reports indicate the first-moving advantage China had, but one of the largely overlooked points is that India, for the longest time, was exploited, and enormous amounts of wealth, including deliberately low-priced resources, was siphoned from it largely by the British. Numerous books and reports prove just how much transfer of wealth took place during his time from India and was used to enrich British coffers. All of that wealth and resources would have been available for Indians to use for their own good or to export it at fair prices. This hindered natural economic growth in the country and continued to leave so many in poverty. China, while also facing a lot of exploitation, was never exploited to this degree, and never was a large portion of China ever under foreign occupation. Barring a few years of Japanese occupation during World War II, India's young population is an asset, but challenges include a lack of access to quality education and high unemployment rates. Government digital schemes have improved service delivery, but education receives only 2.9% of GDP, below international standards. The unemployment rate ranges from 7 to 8%, posing a significant challenge to its progress. It actively develops infrastructure, including roads, technical universities, airports, and factories. To sustain growth, it needs to invest in human capital by allocating more resources to education and healthcare. It ranks 132 out of 191 countries on the Human Development Index, emphasizing the need for improvement in governance, technology, and reduced corruption. Better education, a productive force, and improved living standards can be achieved through governance reforms. Its rise is real, while setbacks exist. Sustained growth is likely with effective leadership and strategic investments. India's demographic advantage with a younger population is a significant concern for Beijing. Its median age is approximately 10 years younger than China's, and it grapples with an aging population. The youthful workforce is positioned as an advantage. The demographic shift is critical because its population growth is outpacing the counterpart, which can impact the balance of power. Its large population is both an opportunity and a challenge. Its population strength lies in its youth, with over 50% below 25 and 65% below 35. Despite a younger population, its workforce will not surpass China's until mid-century. This advantage will outpace the aging populations in Japan and Germany, leading to increased workforce productivity. It is well placed as companies diversify outside China due to its aging population. Vietnam also faces rapid aging, while India's 15 to 64 age group percentage is higher than the Philippines. Ensuring education, employment, and addressing climate change patterns are essential for sustained growth. India is further back in the development curve in comparison, playing catch-up in terms of growth. China had catalysts like Hong Kong and Deng Xiaoping's reforms. It invested in education, creating a workforce suitable for manufacturing, while India quickly entered the service sector. However, problems remain in ensuring education standards and bridging the gap between formal and informal work. The emergence of a strong middle class faces difficulties due to uneven wealth distribution. Pockets of wealth coexist with extreme poverty, making it challenging to define and measure the middle class accurately. The shift from agriculture to manufacturing and services has been significant, but challenges like gender disparities in the formal workforce persist. The nationalist turn under Prime Minister Narendra Modi raises concerns about transparency and the influence of political connections. Stability is crucial for foreign investors, and tensions will impact financial trajectory. Its diverse roles, championing emerging economies while engaging with the West, make it challenging to categorize. Geopolitically, it is part of the Quad to counter China's influence, but concerns about authoritarian trends exist. Despite impressive growth, India lags behind in terms of GDP and per capita income. If it had matched the growth over 40 years, its GDP could be $10 trillion instead of $3.47 trillion. Jobless rates have risen, with a youth unemployment rate at 40%, significantly higher than the overall rate of 7.7%. Rebalancing the workforce, especially involving women, can boost GDP by 27%, according to the IMF. Its poor education system and job training contribute to a lack of skilled workers. Only 20% of the population aged 25 to 34 is in high-skill professions. Government spending on healthcare is 1.3%. Its fixed capital formation has fallen from 36% to 29% since 2007. Foreign direct investment has increased from 3.6% to 1.4% of GDP since 2008. The government needs to attract more FDI through policies that ease business, provide tax incentives, and streamline investment processes. Fiscal deficit growth raises concerns about the sustainability of spending programs. The increasing deficit impacts credit ratings, borrowing costs which lead to higher inflation, and interest rates. Its debt to GDP ratio is around 90% and current account deficit is $36 billion, or 4.4% of GDP. Infrastructure and public services are inadequate and the lowest labor productivity among BRICS countries. Other Asian economies invested more in education and infrastructure during their growth periods. Addressing these concerns is crucial to fulfill its potential and play a substantial role on the global stage. Comment down below on what you think, and if you like this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.